Welcome, everyone. So I'm going to answer the question of what is pre-Kundalini awakening. I find that sometimes people confuse this process for Kundalini awakening, and they can almost be thought of as different processes altogether. Somebody going through a pre-Kundalini awakening might go and experience a full Kundalini awakening. But what is more likely is that they will experience a pre-Kundalini awakening and stay in kind of that realm of things, or they may have a Kundalini stirring or experience, which is temporary flows of Kundalini energy, but not a permanent unfolding or permanent experience of Kundalini awakening um, through the body. One of the things that is really confusing to people is how spiritual material came to the West, particularly the United States, um, and what became popularized. Because part of the confusion was that information about Kundalini awakening quickly became information about pre-Kundalini experiences. And so this becomes very confusing to people. There are even people in the 80s and 90s who wondered why people in the West had so much subtler experiences of Kundalini when people in, other countries, other places were having much more intensive experiences. And the simple answer to this was that things were confused when they came over, and people were misunderstanding pre-Kundalini awakenings for full Kundalini awakenings. And so let's talk about the difference. Pre-Kundalini awakenings is the awakening of more subtle energies in the body. And so often people with this will feel electrical sensation or maybe a bit of flow going through, particularly the legs and the arms, but it can kind of happen in the body as well. So people will feel electricity, they may feel a little bit of heat, maybe they'll have some trauma release, like some emotions come up. Um, and an important consideration for this is that we can consider the difference between pre-Kundalini awakening and Kundalini awakening to, first of all, be kind of like the preparatory phases versus sort of the main event or the opener and the main event. Um, but also, if you look at Chinese medicine and the acupuncture channels, these are channels that run throughout the body. They run through the organ that they're named for. So the liver channel will move through the liver organ and out through the legs, through the pelvis, out through the big toe or in between the big and second toe. And so why am I mentioning this? It is because many of our acupuncture channels are considered primary acupuncture channels. These are the channels where most of our body energy is going to be located. So, energy associated with getting through our day, our emotions, and kind of our, basic thoughts and experiences of reality are in these channels. So, all of these channels have, a lot to do with things like physical digestion, digestion of thought, um, moving through our emotions that we experience, in some cases, trauma. And so, in an ideal spiritual awakening, someone will have gone through kind of even more subtle periods of awakening. Maybe they're interested in spirituality and they can sort of take things step by step until they get to a place of experiencing pre-Kundalini awakening or energy flow that feels like electricity, warmth, subtle movement going through the primary acupuncture channels of the body. most of the people that I know awaken this energy through doing things like martial arts or getting attuned to Reiki, sort of stuff like that, where we learn how to work with our energy, especially energy in some of the chakras. Um, that would be considered minor chakras. For example, we have chakras kind of like Pan's Labyrinth, in the in the palms of our hands. And actually, all of our acupuncture channels, which we have almost 400 of them, um, are considered micro chakras as well. Basically, small wells of energy where energy flows in and out of chakras. That's essentially what acupuncturists are doing when they put a needle in. It's like putting a little flag into the acupuncture point to either divert energy, to bring energy in, basically to impact the flow of energy in some capacity through the channel. So when Kundalini awakening first came through to the West, one of the most popular books was Stalking the Wild Pendulum, as well as other books about Kundalini awakening that either were kind of the grass is always greener if kind of all that sort of stuff we're used to being sold. If you awaken Kundalini, you will be a special chosen god, that sort of stuff. Um, or they were talking about pre-Kundalini experiences, feeling energy flow, basic energy flow going through the body. And so this is an important preparatory stage because you want to engage the primary channels of the body, the more surface level channels of the body, before you engage the deeper channels of the body. Why? Well, first of all, it's a whole heck of a lot easier. There isn't so much work to do. People who have spontaneous Kundalini awakenings, where all of a sudden there's a huge amount of energy flow going through their midline, have some catching up to do because not only are they tending to this huge, deep sort of fountain or fire energy that is flowing through their system, through their midline with all of these symptoms and experiences that go with that. But they are also experiencing the opening of the subtler energies of the body and the energies of the body that very much have to do with our physical form, as well as our emotions and things like our digestion, as well as our mental processes. And so somebody experiencing all of this at once, instead of going through even subtler awakening, going into subtle or pre-Kundalini awakening, going into Kundalini awakening, they have primed and prepared their system for energies to flow. The experience may still be quite difficult for them. The experience of Kundalini awakening, quite frankly, always is in some regard. But having that preparatory time is important because it is sort of like, do you want to go from a 0 to a 2 to a 5 to an 8, 9, 10 out of 10 in terms of intensity of experience? Or, it may sound good to some of you to go from a 0 to a 10 right away, but that isn't helpful for the mind, body, or spirit to experience that. So there still is a lot of confusion about this going on around around these days, where people mistake the pre-Kundalini energies for Kundalini energies, or the preparatory phase for the main event, so to speak. Um, and There are also a lot of people who experience top-down awakenings where they have a bunch of energy up here, but nothing in the lower body. And that is considered a top-down awakening rather than a Kundalini awakening. A Kundalini awakening in particular is awakening of the latent energy that is held in the sacrum, it unfolding, uncurling, and rising through the midline, going through the chakra system, clearing, healing, resolving all of the stuff that is in all of our chakras. So you can look towards my chakra series for that, or my Kundalini video for kind of if you want info on the main event. But I will say that the pre-Kundalini stage is very significant, and there are a lot of wonderful modalities out there that can help cultivate energy and cultivate the sense of energy so that people can awaken and experience flow, electrical current, um, experience their energy body in a lot of safe and wonderful ways. I've already mentioned a few, like Reiki, martial arts, that sort of stuff. Yoga is another wonderful one with a competent teacher. All of these things can help you prepare your mind, body, spirit, and get used to your energy system flowing without it being too intensive, with there being sort of a gradual stepping into the waters rather than sort of drowning in them. The last thing that I will share is that for people who are undergoing Kundalini awakening, who didn't get that chance to experience the preparatory time or didn't get enough chance to experience the preparatory time, there are a lot of people going through spontaneous Kundalini awakenings that did not get a chance to open up the primary channels or have that preparatory time, have the opener before the main event, so to speak. And so for some people, the intensity of the experience will naturally open those channels. But for other people who are undergoing a Kundalini awakening, it is very helpful to open up the channels in the arms and hands, but especially the hips, legs, and feet. We can cycle energy so much better through our body if our legs and feet are open. And so there are a lot of wonderful ways to ground in my books. And there are a lot of wonderful ways to work with the energies of the legs and essentially the first chakra, um, with, the legs and hips and feet are a part of the first chakra system. And most people who are awakening today have difficulty with the first chakra. It is not online because we have in the modern day, such a disconnection from the earth. I will say another thing about books is that even when you find some good ones about Kundalini that are from a bit ago, is that a lot of them not from the modern day age, like my book Working with Kundalini is a great one. Of course, I'm biased, but books that are a bit older assume that people's first chakra is fairly functional. And that is no longer the case in the modern world. And so a lot of people who are having spontaneous Kundalini awakenings these days have a tremendous amount of difficulty because the channels in their legs and feet are not open, or things happen so intensely and they are disconnected in so many ways from the world that it takes a while to find that sense of reconnection to self, to the earth, to the sky, to the divine, to others, and eventually to all that is. So I hope that was helpful for you. I do find that this is an area of confusion for a lot of people. And so feel free to jot down your experiences or let me know if you have any questions.